Sometimes like you see Blink Observer with +2. He went 1-1. But we are going to get right into game number 2.
We are on Ohana right now, the second map in the best of 3. To the bottom right, our player who is up ahead 1-0. In the red, we have BBoongBBoong Prime.
He's been keeping his hair short.
He looks a little bit funny. Usually I just see him with his Prime jersey.
Yeah.
Now with his t-shirt, he looks completely different. Well, his opponent is starting at the top left. Here we have one player, the Protoss player, who really has to make sure that he wins this map if he wants to have another chance. This is Vampire.
Yeah, and there he is. He's wearing the blue MVP jersey today.
Yeah. You raised a very valid point, by the way, when you talked about the sentries that Vampire had. Usually when we see an Immortal push, we have 8 to 10 sentries in the mix. I think he only used the 4 that he had in the Warp Prism earlier. I don't think that he had additional sentries. And those Zerglings that closed the distance, he emptied the entire energy on each and every sentry for the force fields, and then he lost 2 of them. So that was really, really bad. And even though he was able to kill every single Zergling, there was just way too much. The Roaches were the real problem later on, even though he had 3 Immortals in the mix. And without having any force field and any buffer for the Immortals, it was just too much.
Yeah, I mean, once when you see that type of push coming and you can bait the force fields out, notice the Zerg attacked as far away from his base as possible to get those sentries down while he was trying to get the units out. Even though his Roaches were denied, he kind of backed up with them. He basically used the Lings to bait the force fields out, traded the Lings for a few of those sentries because the Lings are a little bit less expensive and they're not really the damage dealers, especially with 1-1 upgrades. But the Roaches, he kept most of them alive, he pulled them back, he didn't try to fight that army against the force fields, he waited for the force fields to fade out, waited until he could fight on creep. So he fought one time away from his third hatch and then the second time at his creep. So I really liked how he executed that defense.
Now we are on Ohana though, and you have for our Zerg player once again the hatch already building. Vampire is starting with the expansion once more, and we'll find out what kind of build he's using. One of the dangers that you have on Ohana as a Protoss is that there are the rocks as a backdoor entrance to your base, so you have to defend 2 bases. The Zerg is attacking early on, but quite often this proves to be a map where the Protoss at least can attempt to take a third a little bit safer than on so many other maps that we have in the map pool. It's not an easy defender a third base, but it's a little bit easier than on most maps.
Yeah, you're right. It's really, really close. And with the way the rocks are set up, it's really cool because it's pretty safe. It's not like the rocks on Entombed where, yeah, Entombed is a pretty easy third, but it's similar to that. And the reason why these maps are so good for Protoss is because with the way the rocks are, you can have a full wall-off setup. You can kind of go into your third base from your natural. It allows you to defend your natural and your third really easily once those rocks are down. And so split roach pushes, for example, like the one that you might see on Cloud Kingdom, are just not as effective here because the distance between the bases is so short.
Right now, the one thing that most Protoss players are relying on this map, though, are usually 2 base timing pushes, nonetheless. So we have a lot of pushes headed straight for the third base, and therefore it's really important for the Zerg to make sure that he kills the rocks at his natural, between the natural and the third.
Oh, and look at this.
Oh, wow.
He saw the cannon placement, decided to go in and abuse that. This happens sometimes on maps like this, like on Antigua, for example. If you have the cannon placed like this, then you can
This is actually really cool. He's starting to kill the pylon, and there is not a single zealot on the map, so he has to pull off a lot of probes in order to make this happen. This is really, really funny.
Yeah, and he's just going to continue to micro these Lings. A pro gamer will be able to keep these Lings alive for a really long time.
And it's already worth it with the pylon placement as it is. He has to pull off probes in order to defend it. And all these probes that are currently just chasing down the Zerglings or attempting to, they are not mining. And this is really bad.
Yeah, as soon as the probes go back, he goes right back to the pylon. And it looks like he's going to lose it.
Will he be able to kill the pylon? No, actually...
Not yet.
This is getting so close, and look how much mining time Vampire is losing here. This is so bad for him.
Look at the micro on these Lings too. It's actually incredible. The pylon will stay alive. He's trying. That was a bit of a mistake. The sentry's out now as well. The pylon will survive, but...
He just tries to make sure that the shields are not regenerating, but it's already a little bit too late. And yes, with the sentry, it's not going to be a problem anymore. But still, is he able to spot the transition? I don't think so, as we have the Twilight Council building on the low ground. Did he see that?
No, he did not see that.
Just missed it.
And just barely missed that Twilight Council. He may yet, though, see it. It's not quite over yet if he can keep this lead alive a little bit longer. By the way, back at home for the Zerg, he's making 12 more drones, which will put him at 58. His Roach Warren is finishing up. Looks like it's going to finish around 730, 740. And the Zerg player has taken 3 gases, actually. He did this last game as well, just went up to 3, didn't take the 4th one. I like that, because you don't really need 4 gases to produce those roaches. You get a little bit more money. You can take the 4th gas later. And there's the robotics going down as well here, and I think we're going to see, like you said, a 2-base push. This is really what Protoss are relying on these days, and this map especially, even though the 3rd base isn't that tough to take, Zerg players have been facing a lot of 2-base Protoss attacks here.
Especially at the 3rd base, where you have, well, when you have the 4th and the high ground at the 4th, you have these rocks, and this is usually where we see the pylon for the Protoss. And then he tries to push down the choke point, which is usually very easy for him to do, because as soon as the Zerg engages, he just moves back a little bit, forces the Zerg to attack up the choke, and this is really dangerous. One well-placed force field can cut off a lot of roaches, and then they are kind of trapped. And roaches on the plate, it's like shooting ducks. They are sitting on the choke point, and the Immortals can just take them down. But also the Blink Stalker push is really strong on this map, and this is something that we will probably see in this game. As with the Twilight Council was built earlier, we have Blink on its way, and he's taking the 3rd. He's actually taking the 3rd here, but still the potential of moving out.
Yeah, the potential is there, especially with this many sentries. The sentries can be used defensively, but when you have this many sentries, it's very likely for offense, because you know, if you have 3 or 4 sentries, that's going to be enough defensively with cannons and the defender's advantage you get from having those warpins so readily available to you, having the high ground potentially as well. And with this many sentries, it seems like an attack. I mean, look at how Blink is lining up with +2 and the Observer coming out. He could cancel this Nexus, but the way he's set up his wall, he's got a tight wall at his natural, and he's destroyed the rocks. Everything looks like he's going to take a 3rd, but we have seen crazier cancels in the past, and this absolutely could be a cancel.
Yeah, exactly. We've just seen this recently, and he's already trying to take down a few Zerglings. They caught him a bit off guard here. It's just the right amount of Stalkers that he has in position. With a few less, I think BBoongBBoong would have tried to commit here and take them out.
Yeah, you're right. And the Nexus will stay. He's mining from it already, sending his probes just a little bit too early. I like how he's controlling the Watchtower with these Stalkers, because if he's actually on top of how many Lings are coming, if there's a crazy amount of them, he can go away early, and that's exactly what he's going to do now. Leaves the sentries, so if there's a roach attack, oh, just look at this. I really like things like this, splitting up the army into 2 groups, having sentries on one side, Stalkers on the other. Totally shuts down that run by, catches some Lings, is going to get this Overlord here. The way that Vampire is expanding here is very, very much preferred to aggression first, I feel like.
BBoongBBoong is going for the drop style, though. This is something that we've seen a lot out of Zergs just lately, especially the TSL Zergs have shown how strong drop play can be, and on a map like Ohana, you can really harass your opponent like crazy if you have a drop, and if you played right. It's not only about a Doom drop into a base with a good timing. That can certainly end the game right then and there, but it's also the possibility that you have to send in Overlords later on, to fake drops a few times, to just bait out your opponent's units when you really want to strike at another position. So a lot of potential here with a drop play that we've seen just recently, and BBoongBBoong is a player with the micro to execute it, and he has the macro as well. Just if you look at this creep spread on this map and his supply already up at 192, he's in a very good position here.
Yeah, he really is, and this is a great map for drops, because the 3rd base and the main base, yeah, they're close by ground, but by air, if you drop into the main base, there's so much space there to work with. Then you can attack from the other side. That's the best way to attack, I think, from 2 directions on this map. He's going to very carefully start working on this creep, and the Zerg player, BBoongBBoong, he knows he can't really engage this. I mean, if he wants to fight off creep with that many sentries, it's going to be very difficult for him, so I like his choice to just pull back here, allow the Protoss to take out some of his creep, but the pressure from Vampire here is very frustrating for him to deal with. He can't really fight this until he has the Infestors out. He's got 4 of them on the way, +1 for his Roaches as well.
And BBoongBBoong is a little bit on a clock here, because so far he's only relying on a Roach and Zergling composition that he tries to enforce with a few Infestors now. And Vampire, if he shuts down this drop play and buys himself a little bit more time, he will be on even bases with the Zerg player. The drop is headed his way, but with Charge being researched now, with all the units that he already has, nice force fields, a good position on the map, he is in a well, he can be very, very dangerous to BoongBoong, but the drop is something that he does not know about.
He doesn't know about it, and he's got nothing set up to defend, so this is going to be pretty difficult to deal with. This is mostly Zerglings, but there are a few Roaches in here as well, and that's a ton of Overlords, so he should be able to escape if he wants to. There's one cannon in here, and that is all he has. Not going to be enough. He's going home right away, and immediately BoongBoong sends his Roaches and Infestors across the map. It looks like he's going to catch some of these. Oh!
2 Immortals, catches 2 Immortals off guard. Worst case scenario here for Vampire, who tries to defend at the third. Another Immortal nearly dies, but in the main base, there's the main story. We have so many units that were able to take down a lot of probes here. So many already died. 13 in total. Well played by BoongBoong, and he's taking a 4th base as a result. His hive tech is nearly completed. He's adding double upgrades, and this is bad news for Vampire.
Yeah, he's getting Baneling speed, which does indicate he wants to continue to use those Overlords. Like you said, there's so much utility in them, and he's faking a drop here while he postures at the third, but Vampire's not falling for it. You guys didn't get a shot of it, but he ran a bunch of Overlords and didn't use them. And now he's attacking at the third base. He's got the Infestors here, and the Fungals, they are good so far.
And he needs to do some damage now. He's on the same worker count as Vampire. He did not really drone up, so he has to make this work. Reinforcing is not going to be as easy for him. He's lacking a little bit of gas here, but he tries to do the damage that he needs to do. Maybe shut down the third. And without the Immortals that he killed earlier on, Vampire is having a hard time pushing him back. All those Roaches do a lot of damage, but in the end, Vampire with reinforcements might be able to just hold this attack.
Yeah, +2 armor is finishing up for him right now. He's made a pretty normal composition, I would say, except that he got charge, and he only really had Zealots when he warped them into defense, so that was really interesting. I would be interested to know why he went for the choice of charge. We've got a bunch of Overlords following a Queen.
Yeah, at the bottom right, the Queen is, well, she's just trying. She's like it's like a queen in wheelchair. She's so slow. She's being pushed across the map by another queen in 5, 6, how many? 10 Overlords are actually following her.
Yeah, man, those Overlords are really into her, man. She's like an idol or something.
The celebrity queen.
Yeah.
Should we call her Elizabeth?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, man. I was actually you like got that before I could, man. That's exactly what I was thinking. We've got Ultralisk on the way, interestingly enough. Very rare to see Ultralisk against Protoss these days, but I mean, we're seeing them right now. And on this map, when their Immortals were killed, this is pretty smart. I like this. He can switch into Broodlords later. Didn't have the Spire. Then he's got this 4th base there's only a few drones at it, but the gases are being taken, and he's in a great position still. I mean,
yep.
I was going to say the attack wasn't as successful, but it put him in a good position. It wasn't as successful as it could have been, but
BoongBoong droned up after I mentioned earlier that he was a little bit low on drones and tried to get his economy up, and he has 4 bases now, so he's not in a bad position at all. But he's down in upgrades. We have his opponent on 2-2 already, but this is going to be really brutal. Force fields are used at this point in time with the Ultralisks on the map. And here come the Fungals. Will the Immortals be able to take down the Ultralisks? It certainly looks like they are doing the damage that they need to do. Both of the Ultralisks are dead. The Stalker's doing the extra damage as well. And Vampire is forcing BoongBoong back once again. And slowly but steadily edging out a small advantage over his opponent.
Yeah, you know, the problem I feel like in that engagement was the Banelings did not really do the damage that they needed to do. They were kind of bouncing around. They got taken out, most of them, before they could hit, or they hit on Archons and Stalkers only, and mostly Archons, I would say, and that takes so many Baneling hits. The Archons are psionic units. Didn't really do the damage with those heavy gas units. And now look at this. We've got Archons and Zealots to block those Lings on one side. This is terrible. This is a terrible trade for BoongBoong. Vampire getting a great engagement here. He's got 2-2 upgrades on these units. The +2 weapons for the Zerglings not yet done. And the Ultralisks that we saw only have +1 weapons.
And now, of course, with the Archons in the picture, with the Immortals and the Stalkers, this is a very deadly army for Vampire. And BoongBoong is slowly but steadily falling into a defensive position. And now, is he moving in? Elizabeth might be in danger.
Yeah, she may, man.
Oh, where is she actually?
Where'd she go? Abandoning her country in a time of need, man. I don't know.
That is like... that's not what I expected. That is not what I'm really disappointed here.
Well, this is not good. There's a Neural on one of the Immortals. Yeah, that's really helpful, but if the Immortals are targeting Immortals that have shields, it's not as useful as it could be. Needs to target Stalkers if he can, but the Ultralisks are falling, and this could be the end of BoongBoong right now. He's dropping in supply like crazy. Crazy!
Vampire is doing so well here. The entire game he defended against the aggression of his opponent, and slowly but steadily he's getting this army composition that he was aiming for, and now he's doing his damage with a very great composition that we don't see all that often against Zerg in this stage of the game. He's pushing forward slowly and steadily, edging out his advantage, and now he's suddenly in the supply lead in a very good position, and BBoongBBoong is really struggling. A forward blink, and this is the end of these roaches.
Yeah, the roaches do target down some immortals on...
He's supply blocked, and look how heavily.
I mean, he's at 40. GG. Can't make any units. I don't know what happened to Queen Elizabeth. I tried to find the overlords. There were a few overlords around, but it wasn't clear.
Yeah, I was really a little bit weirded out because I expected a lot more from her. I know she's not the youngest anymore, but still.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I thought she would be there. I really did. And I think there may be some foul play at work here. Maybe an assassination.
BBoongBBoong needed her, and she was gone. So, I mean, this transfuse could have changed the game. Not really, but
it certainly could have, man. The Queen Elizabeth transfuse actually, not only does it heal the building...
It's an area transfuse.
It's an area of effect, and it also, I heard, creates spine crawlers spontaneously out of the ground when it's used. It's really, really timely. But in all seriousness, the Ultralisk upgrades were very poor. He did not have the good Baneling hits they needed in that first engagement. Our third and final map for this best of 3 is going to be Whirlwind. So this is going to be a tough map for Vampire, but we have seen other Zergs make this work. Like Seed, for example, he just did not care about the size of this map, hit 2 Colossus timings. I mean, that kind of thing can still catch a Zerg off guard here.
And by the way, guys, later on we have Slayer's Mia, who did... Actually, sorry, was Slayer's Min yesterday. I currently mixed them up. Min did very well in the qualifiers yesterday as well. Salah told us about it earlier. Yeah, but this is Mia, not Min.